All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bhajra Samaja Bhajra Samaja Bhajra Samaja. Protectors of all sentient beings without exceptions, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Aryam Padyang Pushpe Dhupe Aloke Gende Nivide Shabda Pratijaswaha. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm, whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. And then to refresh our memory of instructions given on the optimal way to let the body settle into its own place, settle into its own natural state. On page 3, some instructions. It says from the Vajra Garland Tantra, the practitioner should sit on a comfortable cushion, directing the eyes to the tip of the nose and placing the nose in line with the navel. Shoulders should be level, the tongue is joined to the palate, and the teeth and lips are placed at ease. Having relaxed the exhalation and inhalation of breath little by little, free from effort, breath exhales and inhales just as it is. When we are well seated in this way, we are seated in the Bodhisattva's posture. This posture is said to be the posture that all Bodhisattvas will take as they transition, as they go from the stage of the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva to the 11th Bhumi of a Buddha. And Buddhas are Buddhas because at all times they take this position, this optimal position of body, and the mind follows accordingly. Let breath, which is this life energy, flow in and out naturally. If you find that right now mind is, for whatever reason, a little unruly, then you can work with breath to bring the mind more quickly into its own place, which is to make your breath more deliberate and slow and deep, so that you breathe in, in. Then hold your breath for a little bit letting all the energies of this breath gather in the place that is 4 fingers below your navel. Hold breath there. And then before it gets uncomfortable, exhale again, slowly, slowly, slowly exhale. As you breathe in this way, let your belly expand outwards as you inhale. When you hold, let your belly be filled with the energy that breath brings in. Let that energy kind of build up, and then exhale, slowly, slowly, slowly. Exhale, exhale, exhale. As you exhale, you can think of this energy that has been building at the base of your spine spreads upwards through the central meridian of these energy paths, or the central channel. And from there, this energy goes up, up, up. And again, inhale, hold, and exhale. You should contemplate the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages. But now that this difficulty has been overcome, and you do have a life endowed with the advantages or the endowments, and you are free from the major obstacles that stand in the way of Dharma practice. Now that you have met the Fivefold Dharma, given conviction enough to want to practice the Fivefold Dharma, do not waste your time. Do not be distracted so easily. More and more, all the commitments that we think we need to have, we need to fulfill, worldly commitments, if they do not directly, in a strong way, impact your life, aim to set them aside. I'm not saying that you force yourself to put them aside, but how this practice works, how any Dharma practice works, is to work in the direction of helping us simplify, simplify, simplify. Clear the space, clear the space, clear the space. Without clearing the space, without simplifying, then there is no chance to really really deeply, profoundly look at all the layers and layers of mental defilements. Even at the highest level of the 10th Bodhisattva Bhumi, even on that level, it is said that there are defilements to be cleared, to be cleared, to be cleared. Therefore, contemplate the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages. Contemplate impermanence and death. Reflect on karmic causality, the certainty of cause and effect, the unmistaken nature of cause and effect, and recognize the faults of samsara, the meaninglessness, the unreliability of all those conditions and states that we have habitually, in a confused way, taken refuge in. Drop that, put that aside, leave them alone, see them as they are. Then everything, when we see everything as they are, then everything have their own place. Everything can just be there without us needing to poke our noses into them, without us needing to own them. Everything is left as they are. This is non-attention or non-engagement. Encourage the intention to relinquish, relinquish, relinquish. Put aside, put aside, put aside. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Unnecessary, unnecessary, unnecessary. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Then the 5 aggregates are just the 5 aggregates. Leave them alone, leave them as they are. Body is just body, skin is just skin, flesh is just flesh, bones are just bones, muscles are just muscles, tendons are tendons, hair is just hair, teeth is just teeth, nails are just nails. Leave them alone, leave them alone, leave them alone. Not me, not mine. Not me, not mine. Not I, not me, not mine. Everything is just as they are. They are just as they are, to be left alone. Don't poke into any of these. Don't stick your nose into them, just leave them alone. No need to try to chase them away either. Don't even give that much energy to them. Just leave them alone, leave them alone, leave them alone. Not I, not me, not mine. Don't forget you have your breath to anchor you, in case you find that your mind is wandering off. Let breath lead it back here, so that you can, again, not I, not me, not mine, leave everything alone, leave everything alone. Om Bhadra Sattva Samaya Manobalaya Bhaza Sattva Denobha Deda Dedo Membawa Sudokayo Membawa Subokayo Membawa Anurato Membawa Sarvasiddha Membaya Jasavakama Sujame Chedam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarvata Gata Bhajrama Memunja Bhadra Bhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Bhadra Sato Samaya Manobalaya Bhaza Sattva Denobha Tidamino Membawa, Sudokayo Membawa, Subokayo Membawa, Anurato Membawa, Savasede Membaya, Jasavakama Sujamejidam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatatagata Bhajrama Memunja Bhajrabhava Mahasamaya Sado Om Bhajra Sata Samaya Manubalaya Bhajasata Denoba Dita Deda Membawa, Sudokayo Membawa, Subokayo Membawa, Anurato Membawa Sarvasiddhi Membaya Jasavakama Sujame Jedam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatatagata Bhajama Memunja Bhajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Bhajra Sato Samayam Anubalaya Bhajata Denoba Dita Deda Membawa Sudokaya Membawa Subokaya Membawa Anurato Membawa Sarvasiddhi Membaya Jasavakama Sujame Jedam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatatagata Bhajama Memunja Bhajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Bhaja Sato Samayam Anubalaya Bhajata Denoba Dita Deda Membawa Sudokaya Membawa Subokaya Membawa Anurato Membawa Sarvasiddhi Membaya Jasavakama Sujame Jedam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha Ha Ho Bhagavan Savatatagata Bhajama Memunja Bhajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Bhajra Sato Samayam Anubalaya Bhajara Sato Denoba Dita Deda Membawa Sudokaya Membawa Subokaya Membawa Anurato Membawa Sarvasiddhi Membaya Jasavakama Sujame Jedam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Savatatagata Bhajama Memunja Bhajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Bhajra Sato Samayam Anubalaya Bhajra Sato Denoba Dita Deda Membawa Sudokaya Membawa Subokaya Membawa Anurato Membawa Sarvasiddhi Membaya Jasavakama Sujame Jedam Jrayam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatatagata Bhajama Sato Now think that having laid aside, having put aside all that which is unnecessary, all that obscure, all that stands in the way, all that stains, clearly putting all of that aside, now we are in the form of the Idam, completely clear, like a crystal vase. Then bring to mind the field of accumulations in the space in front of us. Guru Vajradhara, in front of Guru Vajradhara, are all the Idams, and then the Buddhas of past, present, and future, Dharma texts, and the noble Sangha. and in all the spaces in between, all the Dharmapalas and Dakinis. Thinking of them, thinking of their qualities, we then make this mandala offering that begins at the bottom of page 11. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land, and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. To you, sublime gurus, I offer my body, possessions, and roots of virtue as an offering. Please accept them. To you, Idam deities, and you, noble three jewels, I offer my body, possessions, and roots of virtue as an offering. Please accept them, O Gurus, Idams, and noble three jewels. I pray that you generate supreme realization within me. Then dissolve the field of accumulations completely and absorb into yourself. Rest in the profound meaning of inseparability between you and the field of accumulations. Then the special preliminary of bodhicitta, the first of the Fivefold Path, has three parts to it: cultivating loving kindness, which in our text, four parts to that is emphasized. Knowing what is the cause for generating loving kindness. The cause is said to arise from remembering the great kindness of our mothers, or the great kindness of those who have been very kind to us, and therefore a heart of gratitude arises. And this gratitude then takes on the form of wishing wellness, wishing happiness, wishing safety. And that is the essence of loving kindness. And then to enhance that loving kindness, we radiate this to those who have been kind to us, especially to those who have been just here and there. They have been kind to us, and outwards until and including generating this, radiating this for those we don't know, and even for those who seek to harm us. The function of loving kindness is then protected by this field, this radiating field of loving kindness. Then there are no enemies, there is no harm. Even harm that comes turns into help. Just as on the very eve of awakening as complete and perfect Buddhas, all the Buddhas have this experience of the Maras arising, seeking one last chance to harm them. But all that harm is transformed through the power of the samadhi of loving kindness. Then the second mind is to cultivate compassion, thinking, how pitiable are the sentient beings as vast as space, especially those enemies who hate me and all of us, the obstructors who harm us, and those who create obstacles to liberation and all-knowingness. Think again and again how pitiable are all these mother sentient beings who cause harm. Cultivate this until tears stream down, your hair stands on end, and your mind is overcome with the thought, how pitiable are these mothers sinking in the ocean of samsara. Though they desire happiness, they engage in the causes of suffering instead and experience its results. They are ignorant of the methods to abandon suffering, and not being cared for by any sublime spiritual friend, they are likened to blind people without a guide. And I am the only one that can guide them, that can lead them out of danger, out of further suffering. How pitiable are these mothers that even though they are helpless and we want to help, yet they cannot help themselves but cause harm and suffering to themselves, to us, to others. How pitiable are these mothers sinking in this ocean of samsara. How pitiable are these mothers sinking in this ocean of samsara. Then, powered by loving kindness and compassion that is boundless, we generate aspiration bodhicitta, thinking, I will overcome the mandala of the dark forces of Maras and the opposing forces, the enemies who hate me and all of us, the obstructors who harm us, and those who create obstacles to accomplishing the wisdom of liberation and all-knowingness. For the sake of all mother sentient beings as vast as space, I will liberate those not liberated from the ocean of samsaric suffering. I will free those not freed from the bondage of afflictive emotions. I will give relief to those who have not found relief from the vehicles of the Shravakas and Partika Buddhas, and I will lead it to the complete nirvana of the Mahayana, those who have not passed beyond sorrow. The Bodhicharya Avatara says, from aspiration bodhicitta, which is what we just generated, although great results arise while still in samsara, it is not like the mind of action bodhicitta, from which merit arises in a continuous stream. Therefore, one should think, generating action bodhicitta with the following words. Until I reach the heart of awakening, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. For as long as I live, and from now until this time tomorrow, I will take into my own experience this Mahayana profound path of the union of the creation and completion stages. Glorious Pamodrupa said, with the river of loving kindness not being cut, and the root of compassion being well moistened, the tree of bodhicitta, having extensively grown, will flower into the 10 bhumis and cause the fruit of the 2 benefits to ripen. So now we are at the part of this text where we are introduced to idam practice. So while there are the 3 ways of giving, producing, giving rise, creating the idam, the way that is explained with regards especially to this text is to pay attention to what's known as the 5 awakenings, the 5 abhisambodhi, or the 5 manifest awakenings. This is referring to the stages that are involved in producing, in creating the idam. So what are the 5? It's not in our text, these 5 awakenings. It's in a later commentary on our text. So these 5 awakenings are awakening from the basis of emptiness, which we have already touched upon a little bit. Awakening from the you could say awakening through the sun and moon seat. Awakening through the speech syllable, awakening through the mind implement, as in this case the Vajra, and the speech syllable, the sound syllable, the voice syllable is the Hung in Chakasamvara's case. And then finally awakening from the completely perfected, exalted body. So again, 5, yeah? And the Abhisambodhi, which is the Sanskrit, Abhisambodhi, the manifest awakening through emptiness, the manifest awakening next from emptiness, and then the sun and moon seat, and then the implement, the syllable, then the implement, the symbol, and then the completely birth perfected Buddha form. These are the 5 awakenings. These 5 awakenings is also related to the 5 wisdoms. But it's a different way of dividing. For example, if you recall, there the sun and moon is divided into the moon being the mirror-like wisdom, the sun being the wisdom of evenness, the seed syllable and the hand implement together is the discriminating wisdom. And then coming together becomes the all-accomplishing wisdom. And then when the deity appears, that is the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu. So this is linking the same elements that are found in the system of the 5 awakenings to the 5 primordial wisdoms. And so maybe a more general point, if all these details at this point is a little too much to try to fold into your practice, is to know that when you are doing Om Swabhava Shuddha Savadhamma Swabhava Shuddhohang, from within emptiness arise, sun, moon, la la la, when you are reading that, repeating that, trying to visualize that, try to understand, try to remember, this is the manifesting the wisdoms taking on these forms. So right now you say, well, I don't really feel like it's the wisdom taking form. It's just me thinking about it. That's fine. Begin with that. Begin with that. It's like you have to start somewhere. If you're going to learn how to play some new sport, you have to start somewhere. When you want to learn Tai Chi, you have to start somewhere. When you're trying to learn how to dance, how to cook. So slowly, right? You begin first, right, with the appearance first. It's a mistake to think, until my mind feels this way, I'm not going to act this way. Sometimes act this way, and surprisingly, the mind will feel this way. Kind of like, I don't feel like smiling. Well, smile. Well, why don't you feel like smiling? Well, I'm not in the mood to smile. I don't feel particularly pleasant, happy. Well, smile, And then, surprisingly, smile. Oh, yeah, I'm now in the mood to smile. Likewise, when you are feeling in the mood to smile, if for whatever reason you start to look sad, that can also induce, can lead the mind to becoming sad. So it's, in a way, like our fragility right now is an advantage if you know how to work with that fragility. But unfortunately, our habits of confusion make the worst out of our current fragility and make the worst out of our stability. Our stability turns into stubbornness. And so then we stubbornly adhere to the unhelpful parts of our self, unhelpful parts, and then become hopelessly fragile in a harmful way, But turn around this fragility and this firmness so that they all get recruited towards this work of awakening. So, and anyway, the 5 awakenings: awakening from the basis of emptiness, awakening from the sun and moon seat, awakening from the syllable, awakening from or through the implement, the mudra, meaning the ritual, and in this case, the blue hung, then awakening to the completely perfected, exalted body. To say a little bit more about these 5 awakenings, before we look at again the actual words used for these 5 awakenings in our sadhana. First, a little bit of understanding of what is the nature of this body? What is the nature of this body? Buddha explained the nature of this body on different occasions, taking different kind of viewpoints, different vantage points. And each of the vantage points, each of the viewpoints that the Buddha have given us to look at this body, the nature of this body, and the characteristics of body. First of all, he wasn't giving it necessarily from the perspective of, say, an anatomist, someone who studies human anatomy, may look at this body, right? He wasn't looking at it or teaching us what a surgeon should know about this body. So when he gave a way of viewing this body as the coming together of 32 parts, hair on the head, hair on the body, skin, mucus. So it's a list of 32 things, right? But that's not necessarily what a surgeon needs to know. However, those 32 is what we need to know in order to not be so obsessive. We normally don't think of ourselves as obsessive towards this body, this form. But we are. We don't even realize. We think it's such a desirable object. We think it's so nice. Then when we think it's so nice, then we also think, ooh, also so nice. But everything, related to this body. A little bit hard to hear that right now, but don't immediately react and shut down. But everything related to this body, everything that connects to this body, before long becomes unclean. Clothes that we wear before long needs to be laundered. Rooms we occupy before long needs to be swept. Needs to be aired out because it's starting to stink. Where did that come from? This body. Delicious food that we put in through this opening comes out through another opening and needs to be dealt with. So everything, related to this body, before long, becomes dirty. If you're still not convinced about this, of course, this is not the whole picture, yeah? We're not asking you to hate this body, but to have a less to be less enslaved by this ordinary mundane body. At least we should do that. We should see that. Again, if you're still not convinced that, on some level we really like are simply ignoring, some facts about this body, current body. If you're still not convinced, so you have something that you love eating, very delicious. Whatever it is, some of us is breakfast, some of us is lunch, some of us is dinner. Okay, now imagine, you're like, wow, so good. So this is so good here, and this is so good here, right? You eat, you put one mouthful, yum, 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 yum. Okay, now right there, yum, 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 yum. Do this into the same bowl. Nothing has changed, okay? Same food, same mouth, same saliva. Now spoon them and try to put them back into the mouth. You will not. You're not even eating someone else's food that has been pre-chewed. Your own. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't. Ugh. Like, right? We slightly like choke, Nobody goes like, okay, let's not. Because it's yucky now. Wait, yucky from what? Ah. So that's one, right? But that's not all that the Buddha has to say about body. In Secret Mantra, the Buddha also talks about the body, the nature of the body, the characteristics of body in another way. And here, he talks about the body as abiding, existing through the 5 manifest awakenings, the 5 awakenings, the 5 abhisambodhi. He also talks about the body as abiding through the channels, the meridians, the wind energies, and the essential drops. He also talks about body through those impure aspects from one perspective. So various ways. Then he also talks about the body in terms of body being nothing but momentary manifestations, momentary arising of form in relation to momentarily existing conceptual thoughts. Then if we look at the vantage point, the viewpoint of this body being abiding or existing through the 5 manifest awakenings, what does it mean here? So this is really important. We have to start this process understanding the 5 awakenings from last life, so to say. Meaning, right? At the time of our death, the gross and subtle elements that constitute this body and mind begin to unbind. They are held together right now by our karmic power. But the karmic power, when the karmic power that binds together this life begins to weaken, until finally, when we're actively dying, then the gross and subtle elements begin to unbind and then further, not just unbind, but begin to dissolve. Until finally, the wind energies is what all these other elements and the energy that support all these elements have dissolved into these wind energies, and the wind energies of the lung then finally dissolve into only consciousness. And then finally consciousness dissolves in its own stages. So first is in the stage of appearance, increase, and near attainment. These are the three stages until it dissolves into clear light. Then this is what normally we say, death. And this is when doctors come and certify you are dead. In the interval between, all the appearances of this life have already set, and the appearances of Bardo has not arisen yet. In that time, that corresponds with the awakening into or through or from. I've not yet found a satisfying word for awakening into, awakening through, awakening from the emptiness. That's that stage. The second stage of awakening into, awakening through, awakening from the sun and moon, that is the moment of conception. So in the confused, ordinary, mundane way, this awakening arises. It arises as ordinary conception. Yesterday I talked about, the egg, the ovum of the mother, being healthy, being at the right time, being ripe. The sperm of the father, healthy, active, actively swimming, right? And when these two come together, and there is a being existing in just thought form, a stream, a chain of consciousness, with the right karmic connection, then joins the sun and moon seat, sits on the sun and moon seat. That is the second awakening. Except that in our confused state, it's not awakening. It's now giving rise to a next cycle of samsara, next cycle of confusion. So this is the awakening of the sun and moon seat. Then awakening through the letter of speech, the syllable, is when conception has taken place, is successful, right? And the most subtle state of the embryo has formed. In fact, sometimes it's said to be right before that. That is the awakening of the syllable. So sound is not exactly material, but it's one step before becoming material, becoming physical. That's the awakening through the syllable. Awakening through the mudra, the vajra now, is the period of gestation in the womb. Then birth, coming out of the birth canal, that is the complete awakening. So the 5 awakenings that we cultivate during creation stage purifies those 5 stages. from the last life experience of dying, the awakening through emptiness, that is also corresponds with taking dharmakaya or death onto the path. The awakening through sun and moon, that is related to taking the bardo state and sambhogakaya. When conception starts, that is the arising of nirmanakaya, that is taking the birthing process onto the path. Then this becomes the 5 awakenings. Then furthermore, it says like the 9-10 months of being in the womb corresponds with if we were not doing it in the samsaric way or not experiencing it in the samsaric way, then they are the 10 bhumis. The gestation period are the 10 bhumis. So in that way, sentient beings are all lords of the 10 bhumis. Make sense? Comprehendo? Okay, today we have to end a little early. I have a speaking engagement. So what would be good, I think, I will send the video recording to Jeff, who is very diligent about posting them onto the YouTube list. Might be good for you to go back and listen to these 5 awakenings. If you're industrious, and you may even try to Google this and see if you'll find it, but no guarantee what sorts of answers you may get, which may or may not be helpful. But if you are industrious and curious, try and see, and then we can clarify more tomorrow. And now you can also, the other thing, and then you're like, no, I don't want to do that. And so instead of doing that, then go back to page 25 of our sadhana. So like I said, in the sadhana is even more detailed because the sun and moon part is elaborated into the wind mandala, the fire mandala, the water mandala, the earth mandala, Mount Meru, lotus. So here to clarify on page 26, right? To clarify, on Mount Meru, so yesterday, our translation. So this, our meeting together is helpful. Help me figure out where in the translation needs some fine-tuning. So here is the process. The process is after you have Mount Meru, then on top of Mount Meru is a multicolored lotus with thousands of petals. Within that, then what happens is what we call like a vajra, remember in the text that you have now? It's not the same vajra as the seed syllable vajra. Here is talking about the arising of what's known as cross vajra, meaning 2 vajras laying flat down like this. So that is inside that lotus. And that is the stability of the ground. Like Om Vajra Bhumi Ahung, right? That mantra is also referring to these 2 vajras crossed together and laying flat onto you could say, the center of the lotus. Then on top of this is where the moon and the sun seats. The moon and the sun seat. Yeah, just to clarify. Then on the sun, right? So first the moon, right? So lotus, cross Vajra, moon, sun, then the Hung inside the blue Vajra. The blue Vajra, like a spaceship, you can think, ooh, lands to sit on the sun cushion. Underneath moon cushion, underneath double Vajra, then supported by this 1,000 petal multicolored lotus. Then in our sadhana, it says, in the center of that light radiates from the letter Hung inside the blue Vajra, clearing the obscurations of all beings and transforming them into the host of deities of Jakasamvara. And they all appear as Jakasamvara now and Vajrayogini. And then these lights gather back into the Hung that is inside the blue Vajra. And these lights come in as bodhicitta of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of all 10 directions, and gather in as and dissolve into the Hung as bodhicitta. So these are the bodhi juices. And from this, in an instant, the perfected form of Jakasamvara arises. Then the next part is describing all the details of Jakasamvara. So up until at the top of 27, all the 5 awakenings are now complete. The sages of the 5 awakenings is complete when you get to the part of the top of 27. Okay? Bien? Okay. Chanju sem chorim poje ma ge banam ge gyuche ge ba nyam pa me ba yang gong ne gong du bel wen shou. Below the lotus is Mount Meru. So in Gyoba Rinpoche's instructions, pith instructions for cultivating this co-emergent Mahamudra, co-emergent Jakasamvara, he says that in the Indian source text, there is no mention of Mount Meru, meaning in the sadhana of the co-emergent Jakasamvara, there's no mention of Mount Meru. But then he says, according to Galotsawa, the Tibetan teacher responsible for bringing this particular transmission of Jakasamvara back to Tibet, Galotsawa gave it to Pamodrupa, Pamodrupa gave it to Jigten Sumgen. Our particular co-emergent Jakasamvara lineage comes in that direction. In Gyoba Rinpoche's pith instructions for cultivating co-emergent Jakasamvara, he says, although in the Indian sadhana source text there is no explicit mention of cultivating Mount Meru, he says that Galotsawa, consulting with Galotsawa's teacher, Abhayakara Gupta, this great master, Indian master, confirms that even though it's not mentioned, there is some special dendril, there's some special dependent origination that is necessary to cultivate Mount Meru as the base that holds the lotus, and that this is a special point that even though it's not in the source text, through the oral transmission, this has to be done. And there also I found it says that the east side is blue color. East side of Mount Meru is blue color. It's made of the jewel called Baidurya, which is commonly translated as lapis, but it's not really lapis actually, but blue, dark, brilliant blue, blue beryl, really, Baidurya. The south side is made of gold and is yellow in color. The west side is made of, it's red in color, like rubies. And then the north side is green in color and it's made out of this green sapphire, Indra Nila. So Gilbert Rinpoche said you should visualize this as extremely large, majestic, and beautiful. Tomorrow I'll give more from Gilbert Rinpoche's instructions on how some of the other details. It talks about this lotus having a trunk, and this trunk going down in the center of Mount Meru as well. Okay, ta-ta, bye-bye.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Gracias, Rinpoche.
Bye-bye.